Welcome back to another video, and today we will be discussing my favorite makeup products from indie brands. So welcome back, and today we are doing the third and last part of my summer series. So we are discussing sort of my favorite products from indie makeup brands, and I have done this sort of version from drugstore brands and my high-end brands, which you can find on my favorites playlist that's in the same playlist that this video is included in. But anyway, let's actually now today, as with other videos, I have tried to like more discuss about in terms of categories of products, but there could also be like individual products included in these videos. This is going to be quite eyeshadow heavy because definitely for me, eyeshadow has been something that indie brands have transformed in a couple of years. And if you have like, in terms of having like exciting new eyeshadow formulas, indie brands have been very much in forefront of bringing those into like formulas into the palettes. And but for this video I tried to do so that instead of like including every single indie eyeshadow that I ever had, I tried to include like for like different kinds of formulas. So instead of like approaching it that what are my like absolute favorite indie eyeshadow palettes, because then this would have been purely an eyeshadow palette favorite video, I tried to like approach this that what kind of formula would fit if you are looking for a certain type, if you have like certain type of makeup preferences with your eyeshadow, and what is maybe like more approachable maybe for someone getting into like eyeshadow compared to that if you're looking for something very like for example like these very shifty multi-chromes that indie brands are known for. We also do have actually a few products that I will be actually going through that aren't eyeshadow related, because I do think that it's always great to see indie brands expanding beyond eyeshadow, because I do think in terms of like, even though eyeshadow palettes generally haven't been that trendy in the makeup market recently, but indie brands still tend to like do a lot of eyeshadows, and sometimes because there are so many indie eyeshadow launches, a lot of the eyeshadow palettes tend to get like, they go under the radar because there are so many also other indie brands releasing eyeshadow palettes. So I do think that it's great that indie brands also try to differentiate themselves a bit from one another by also doing something else than just eyeshadow. But yeah, let's actually now get to the products that I have for this video. So let's actually go first the sort of non-eyeshadow products from the brands that I wanted to show. So Oden's Eye. Oden's Eye definitely does great eyeshadow. Oden's Eye is a Swedish-based indie brand. They do ship their products from China and a lot of indie brands, and that's actually not something that I never critique like brands for, because there is some great quality makeup that comes from Chinese factories, and then there is some bad quality makeup, but that goes to also to other countries where makeup products are generally produced. But just something so you're aware, Oden's Eye is based on Sweden, and I do believe they do all their designing work in Sweden, but if you order from them, the packages are shipped from China. But for example, if you buy them to the European Union, they do actually have taken care of the like taxes and customs for you, so you're not hit with any extra like custom fees. So Oden's Eye, like I said, does do good like eyeshadow, but I actually wanted to highlight maybe something a bit different from the particular brand, and that's their actually lip products. So I think Oden's Eye does very well different kind of lip products. So first example that I have, this is the lip gloss from Angelica Nyqvist and Oden's Eye second collaboration they did last fall. It was their Halloween, and this is the lip gloss that they did. This was their first time doing a lip gloss formula, and very good formula, very beautiful, applies to the lips easily. And this is even a shade, this was the spectral shade. This is a mauvish brownish shade that I've actually used quite a lot, and they have actually expanded their lip products in this kind of formula when they did the sort of influencer collaboration during the springtime. So they do actually have now more, I think, glosses, and there are even like, I even think they now have moved their like liquid lipsticks, which I will be showing one from their permanent line. They also have it now in this sort of like type of packaging. But very good. Similarly, their satin lipsticks, I don't think they promote these too much because I don't know what's the status of this. So one formula that you shouldn't buy, that if they still have the bullet matte lipsticks available on their website, don't try those are tacky. But these satin lipsticks are very easy to use. They glide to your lips, they don't go patchy. There's a nice lot of pigment. Of course, because these are satin lipstick, you do have to reapply them. But again, very smooth and nice formula. The shades are a bit like, I say, orangey, reddish heavy. I would wish generally that Oden's Eye, because a lot of their shades seem to be like this sort of very orangey, reddish heavy. I would wish they would do more neutrals and pinks, but if you can find a shade that you like, then again this satin lipstick formula is something I would recommend. Liquid lipstick formula, Odensai does one of my favorite liquid lipstick formulas. I'm not sure what's again just the status of these. These were their original liquid lipsticks. As I said, they have since when they did the influencer collab during springtime, they have now like more liquid lipsticks in another kind of packaging. But these are from their permanent line also. They are liquid lipsticks obviously, so if you have super dry lips, don't try this. But for me, these are very smooth to apply. They last quite nicely. They wear off quite nicely, and you can actually reapply them without them doing something funny to your lips because of the old layer products that might be underneath. But yeah. So lip products are definitely a brand product category that I would recommend from Odensai. Next, another Swedish indie brand. So this Gloss Gods, and from Gloss Gods I have two actually products, and again we're not talking about eyeshadows. So first one is the eyeshadow base. This is actually an opened one because I am testing currently another eyeshadow base, but this is the eyeshadow base that I have now consistently used and rebought like 2 to 3 years now. And what I found good with this one is that first of all you get a lot more product with this one. This cost around, I think it's a bit over 10 euros, but this is actually a good formula in terms that it is the sort of like a more of a cream base, but it actually doesn't like, it sets down a little bit, so this doesn't actually like go too wet on your lids once you get it onto your lid. And I have noticed that with this one I don't really have to powder it on top of or anything. I can just start using the eyeshadow that I want. And especially as someone who has an oily or like skin type, for someone with oily lids, I do actually like a sort of base that goes on a bit, like dries down a bit when it goes to your lid, so it doesn't actually like sort of crease your eyeshadow, because some of the other eyeshadow bases that I've tried in this kind of tube formats, there's been the issue that those have been too wet and they actually don't really set down and they actually don't enhance the longevity of the eyeshadow. So if you're looking for a good eyeshadow base, this is definitely something that I would try. Then another kind of product that I've been liking from them are their liquid cheek products. This is one of my favorite liquid cheek product formulas altogether. So they have bronzers and contour shades in this formula, and then they have liquid blushes. They recently did repackage these, so the packaging, if you buy this from their website, it can be different. This is the kind of formula that I'd say it's a good formula. If you want to get a sheer layer, then you can do only one layer with this one and it doesn't still look like patchy, but this is the kind of formula that also builds, so if you want them to have more opaqueness, then you just have to apply like a second layer and it already builds like quite like nicely, and you then have much more of a sort of oomph and more bang on your cheeks if that's the kind of style you like. If these are a bit on the, I'd say especially these blushes, these are a bit on the glowier side. They do dry down, so this isn't something that's gonna stay sticky on your cheeks. But if you like a super matte, especially with the liquid blushes, if you like a super matte liquid blush, then this isn't the formula. But if you like this more sort of a satiny effect, then I would say that this is both the cream bronzer, contours and the blushes are something that you should try from the brand. Then let's get to the eyeshadow palettes. I'm just looking at them thinking that how are we gonna approach this one. Maybe let's first go to some indie formulas that I would recommend, that if you are more of a person that you're either getting into eyeshadow or getting into indie eyeshadow, and especially if you may be someone who's now more used to being using more kind of neutral eyeshadow and you want to try indie brands because they do offer these special shades, but because they also offer colorful shades. First brand that I would maybe recommend for someone who is a bit more on the beginner side is Glamlight. So first of all, pricing of Glamlight is very decent. The price varies depending how big of a palette you're buying from them, but usually the palettes are between, depending on the size, between 30 and 50 euros, which is a very decently priced for compared to a lot of other indie brands. And this is one of the, I think, best palettes they have released, Betty Boop palette. So with Glamlight, one disclaimer I will say is that they have several formulas. So before buying Glamlight, watch reviews of the particular palette you're wanting to buy, because they have this sort of excellent formula that this Betty Boop palette was made with. And then they have more mediocre formula. For example, the Kiss collaboration that they had recently, that didn't get good reviews because it had the more sort of mediocre formula. But if you're a beginner and you're able to buy a palette with this sort of their better formula, this is a very good formula in terms of the fact that it is more blendable. So it doesn't like pigment immediately on the go, and it is very like easy to work with and sheer out. Also, what I do like about these shimmers, that if you want a more sparkly shimmers, but you're kind of thinking that you still don't want to go all the way to these sort of multi-chromes and such, this again, if you are able to get one of these palettes that have this more sort of a shinier shimmer format, this one, these are good because these are very impactful shimmers, and you can definitely then see that you have something more special on the lids, but they aren't, for example, that if you're a bit unsure, do you want these super shifty shimmers, these aren't quite that yet. So this is a formula that if you're more of a beginner and you want to dip into indie brands without maybe having to pay 60 or 70 or 90 or 80 euros from a very expensive indie palette, and you also dabbing into more colorful shades, and you want to try out that do you like these more sort of colorful shades, then this is I'd say a good formula to start with, because this does offer some maneuvering in terms of like the opaqueness of the shades. Then a second formula that I'd say is also a bit on the more like beginner friendly size in terms of pricing and also how the formula wears is from Lethal. So this is especially, I would say, that if you live in Europe. So if you live in Europe, I think Lethal is a good brand. They are again more decently priced. They have a palette builder on their website, but they're sort of ready-made palettes that they do. Those usually go around between 40 and 50 euros. This is a palette that I have made with the palette builder, but if you want to buy one of the pre-made palettes, those are like less expensive. And this is again a more sort of a formula that I'd say offers a bit more maneuverability in terms of the fact that it is not like pigmented immediately on the go. You can build it to be very pigmented, but this is like more easier to work with if you first want to start out with a sheer layer of color. These are also good that if you don't immediately want to also invest into super expensive multi-chrome shades. The Lethal multi-chrome and duochrome shades, they aren't like the most expensive of the multi-chrome and duochrome shades. That's because they aren't as opaque as some of the like very shifty shades that you see maybe from, let's just say maybe from, now I'm blanking. Well, for example, I have Ensley Rain palette coming in this one. So, for example, with Ensley Rain, those are very punchy. Those are like very punchy multi-chromes, but those are also like shows in the palette's price. So this is again good that if you want to try out some multi-chrome shades, but you're again maybe thinking that you don't want them to be like that super shifty, super on the go, and maybe something that blends in more easily, blends more into the matte you're wearing underneath, then this is again a good formula. And again, because of the pricing, this is more, I think, approachable, so I'm getting into indie eyeshadow. Also, I do think that what I will say, like Lethal, as I said, they have a palette builder on their website. The palettes will be more expensive if you buy them through the palette builder, but what I think that it's quite unique that Lethal does genuinely offer you a chance that you can build your own palette to your own preferences. So if you're a person that you completely want to pick and choose what kind of shades you want, this is one of the few brands that actually offer the possibility to that kind of thing. Then next, let's go to a few brands that I would recommend if you're particularly a fan of, I'd say, matte shades. So Blend Bunny Cosmetics is a brand that I would say that if you are looking for your ultimate sort of like blendable mattes that are still very punchy. So I have the Dollhouse palette here as an example, but I'm actually wearing the Longines palette currently. It's in my 2-week rotation, but I brought this as an example because I think this has the greatest variety of showing what Blend Bunny does well. Their shimmers are like good and okay, and definitely like, for example, in the Longines palette that I've been trying, they have improved it, but definitely like mattes is what shine. If you want a sort of all colorful matte palette that has the sort of mattes that are very punchy on the go but still blend together effortlessly, then you should definitely try out the Blend palette, which was their sort of original palette. Similarly, what they do well, for example, here there's a pastel row. This was one of the pastel formula that really impressed me. That from the get-go, the pastels are very big, like very pigmented. You had to just put a couple of layers of them, and they were like, you didn't have to do this, that you have to do it with a lot of pastels that you build them, and still it doesn't seem that they go into your lid. Similarly, what I think Blend Bunny does well is that these very deep shades, for example, someone like me who has a fair skin tone, many brands do that their mid-tone and their lighter matte shades work very well, but then it can be that even with more expensive brands, their sort of deep shades have been either stiff to work with, at worst they have gone patchy. With Blend Bunny there is no such issue, and it's quite nice to be able to be, as someone who has been fairer skin tone, to actually have like this sort of deepening up shades that I know that will actually still blend, and I don't have to worry about them getting very patchy, or that they're stiff, or that they don't just move once you put them into your lid. So definitely, if you are the matte lover and not so much about the special like shimmer shades in terms of indie brands, I'd say Blend Bunny is one of those palette brands to go to. Then I think indie brand that does, I think, sort of like many things well while still being very, like, I'd say decently priced. So Cosmic Brushes is still one of my indie brands. I haven't been actually buying that many I haven't actually bought a single Cosmic Brushes palette during this year, but that's more related to color stories that have come out. But this is the Delicious Delights that came out last year, and this was their sort of rainbow palette. And Cosmic Brushes, I think, is that if you're looking for all around indie brand that does both the shimmers and mattes well while still being quite decently priced. Their prices have gone up because they are now including more like multichrome and duochrome shades in their palettes. Some of their older palettes are a bit more inexpensive because while they have very beautiful shimmers, those aren't like this one had one multichrome, which is this shade over here, but a lot of the shimmers are normal shimmers. But even the newer palettes that are more expensive, I do still think that they aren't like as expensive as, for example, Ensleya Rain, that again I like to use as a like example of an indie brand where the pricing is also quite high. This is a brand that I'd say that I fell in love with the matte quality of this, but also how well this brand does color combinations, and also I do like the shimmer formula, even though the palettes that I, for example, own have mostly like just basic shimmers. I think this is like that if you're looking for a good all-over indie brand that does all things quite well while still not like completely like having for you to make this sort of very expensive initial investment, I would like still go to Cosmic Brushes. These are like, if you don't like your super punchy on-the-go colorful mattes, then this could be a brand that maybe I would say skip, because these will definitely, even these more colorful shades, these will pack a punch from the first when you first put a brush in them and put it on your lids. But they are still like what has surprised me and why many people like this is that they are still, even though the mattes go on very punchy, they are still very easy to blend, and there isn't like patchiness issues or anything with this one. And just like, as I said, also how these palettes are combined and the color stories that how these are created is just all of them have been like very well thought out, which I can like appreciate, especially considering that these also like, how many shades do we have? I think this was one of the, do we have 20 shades here? Yeah, I think these are 20 shades palettes, so there are actually like already quite, how should I say, there's like already like quite a lot of shades, but still all of these palettes have been like very cohesive. Then the last brand which I have been referring to, and this is a brand that I would say that if you really want to like, how should I say, if you really want to spend your money and you want to like get it all, then I would say that Ensleya Rain is the brand to go. This is the Cold Moon palette that is my favorite palette from the brand so far. So this is the brand that if you're looking for that you want, because we do know that with indie brands there's been perhaps the like sometimes bit of an issue that they do either thing well. They do either the mattes really well in their eyeshadow, or they either do these like individual special shades really well. But Ensleya Rain is one of the few indie brands that I can say that they do both, and they do it in a very excellent high quality formula. These are very costly. I have always said that pick and choose the palettes that have the color stories you like. You don't need to buy all of these, because these cost around, depending on the palette, they cost around 80 or 90 euros. So these are very expensive. They now have come out, which I'm actually quite happy. They did recently release this sort of smaller palettes. Those are still like, let's say, quite expensive for how many shades you get. But you now have the option of, if you like the color stories of the smaller palettes, you now actually have the options to like get a smaller palette to first try out how you like the formula before then deciding if you want to get these big ones. Like, I can't critique the quality of this one. This is actually like one of the like as I said, brands that the matte quality is beautiful. This has the, if you're especially looking for these very like punchy multi-chrome, duochrome shimmers that you really can see the shifts, then I would go to this one. What I also think with this shimmer formula is that unfortunately with some indie brands, some of the chunkier shimmers, this also has this chunkier shimmers, but those actually still smooth out to your lids quite well. With some, I still think that there's a bit of refinement that some indie brands suggest that you do need to do a little wiggling to get, for example, this sort of chunkier shimmers to work with. I haven't had that kind of issues with the shimmers, for example, with the Ansler Rain formulas. So you can trust that also, that even some of the shimmers might look at, oh, are those gonna be creasing on my lids or something, but I haven't had the issue. And you can actually use most of these like shimmers also with brushes, which with most indie shimmers just isn't an option because, again, of the chunkier formulas with some of the shimmer shades. So this is the sort of eyeshadow formula from indie brands that if you want to if you really want to invest and you really want the I think best of the best what's in the market in terms of indie eyeshadow. But again, please don't buy all of these, just buy ones that you like, because I don't think that constantly spending 80 or 90 euros, you're bound to, especially with the special shimmers, if you have a big indie palette collection like already, you're bound to start getting doubles and triples, or because there's still like a limitation to how many shifty shades one can do. But yeah, that was the sort of I'd say last type of eyeshadow formula and product recommendation that I had from indie makeup brands. Those were all the products. So what did you think about my picks? And comment down below what have been the makeup products that you have been liking from indie brands, because I do think that even though we associate indie brands with eyeshadows quite often, there are also other products that indie brands do well, and as I said, I always think that it's great when indie brands expand beyond eyeshadow, but I also do like my special shade shadows, and I do think that it's good that we have also brands that focus on sort of bringing something bit maybe extra to the eyeshadow market that maybe some mainstream or drugstore brands just don't do. If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from my future content. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope I'll be seeing you again soon in another video. Bye bye!